Welcome back to On the Wine Road here on KSRO. I'm Jeff Davis. It's Women's History Month, and tomorrow is International Women's Day. There are a number of events going on this month pertaining to women, like Women, Wine, and Wellness at the Westin Barossa in Napa all weekend. And this past Thursday, I moderated the Women for Wine Sense event featuring 8 panelists who are women in wine. We heard 2 earlier, and another of those attending was Penny Gadd-Koster of Rack and Riddle. She's the executive winemaker and leads a team of 7 winemakers and enologists. She also makes her own wine, Coral Mustang. I met with her on Thursday just prior to the event and said to her, "So you're making a lot of wine up there at Rack and Riddle, aren't you?"
I am. So we're making over 1.5 million cases up there. A lot of it is sparkling wine, which makes it kind of special.
That would be the Riddle part, huh?
That would be the Riddle part, exactly. So it took us a little while to come up with that name, but it has stuck, and here we are.
Why don't you briefly tell our listeners what a custom crush facility is all about?
Sure. What we do is basically have a home where people can make their wine. We assist in that. We have the equipment to do that. So you can actually start a business, start a winery without having to put in a lot of capital to start your own facility. So we have staff that can assist with questions, the equipment, obviously, a place to store the wine. So it can really help get a business started. And along with that, some people see that model as the way to continue their business because then, again, they don't have the overhead and capital investment that they have to do with their own facility.
A lot of young winemakers, I imagine, start that route.
Across the board, yeah.
Another benefit to that is people like yourself who work there and Cindy Costco, who we heard earlier in the hour, it's a great chance for you to work there, but also start your own wine label and your own brand.
Exactly. So I actually started out as well as a small winery, still very small, a couple hundred cases here and there. But I started out at another custom crush facility making my wine. Where I was working at the time, they didn't have a space where I could really do it, but I found another custom house that was willing to do that. Since I've been with Rack and Riddle, then it is under that house, which is kind of nice because then I can have my hand right on it, which is really, really nice.
And even though you have a large clientele, Rack and Riddle has their own brand as well.
Correct. So all sparkling wine at this point. We're kicking around whether we want to expand that. But we do make 4 different sparkling wines. We have a Blanc de Noir, a Blanc de Blanc, a Brut, and a Rosé. So we have kind of a broad spectrum of things that we can actually bring to the customer.
Well, you're up there in Healdsburg and Cloverdale, so you got a lot of good wine up there near you.
We do. And we source some of the grapes not too far away from Cloverdale, and we source some of the grapes out of Sonoma County for those wines as well. So, we're in a really great environment, great area to be producing great sparkling wine. So
you have 3 locations, right?
So there's one in Healdsburg, there's one in Geyserville. The one in Geyserville is where we do all of our pressing of our grapes, processing of grapes, and then the other facility is where we bring all of the sparkling wines and some of the white wines then to go through fermentation. And then along with that is where all of our bottling and disgorging and storage of sparkling happens, is actually in the Healdsburg facility.
So we touched upon your own brand, which is Coral Mustang. And first of all, I'm curious where you came up with that name. And then tell me about the wine you're making.
Sure. Coral is my middle name. Mustang is somebody, it's kind of a military term for somebody that's worked their way up the ladder and has really kind of done it all. So since I started out as crush help back in 87 at a winery and worked my way up, I started out at Jordan Winery and have worked my way up into now an executive winemaker position and having my own brand as well, being the winemaker for a few other brands. So my husband used to kind of kid me. It was kind of a joke, well, you're a Mustang. He was in the Marine Corps. And so that's kind of how we put that name together. And then the logo, the seahorse, just kind of made sense. What's a Coral a Mustang. Well, it's a seahorse. Then it kind of emulated our lifestyle a little bit as well. So me kind of being outside of the home a little bit more than the male seahorses are the ones that raise the young. And so even though he's not raising young, we have a couple dogs. And so it all kind of worked. My passion is the ocean as well. And
I was going to ask if there was some swimming involved there.
It is. So I originally wanted to be a marine biologist, but I also get deathly seasick. So kind of had to look at a couple of different pathways. But now it's kind of a way for me to kind of return back to that. And I actually do donate to a seahorse foundation in British Columbia every year as well.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around the fact that you climbed the ladder from Jordan, like it was down at the bottom of the ladder. I'm sure your position wasn't where you are today.
No, it wasn't. So I spent a lot of time in a crush pit with the sun and eating my lunch under a truck, during rainy days. And, took a couple years before then they kind of brought me into the fold. And then the rest is kind of history from there. So...
Sounds like a great and fun career.
It is. It's one of those things that even now, 25 years later, I go, wow, I can't believe I do this. And now with the sparkling part of it, that makes it even more exciting because there aren't a lot of us that can do that. So I feel very, very fortunate that I got the opportunity to learn it and now actually produce and help other people make sparkling wine as well.
Penny Gadd-Koster, executive winemaker of Rack and Riddle and supporter of seahorses. They are some of the coolest creatures. During the panel discussion, I asked the ladies to toss aside the romanticism that surrounds winemaking and tell us about the reality of it. And Penny spent quite a bit of time talking about how tough it can be, the long hours, the heavy lifting, the cleaning. And yet it doesn't discourage any of them from continuing to do it year after year because aside from the hard work, they love it. They're passionate about it. I'll talk with one more panelist next as we continue on the Wine Road.